I'm a buster bulls when I say this. In 2022, there's not one Hebrew Israelite commanded to not teach with their head covered. That's not in the book, and that does not agree with history.
I'm talking. If you can't stand the heat, you stay the f out the kitchen and don't call yourself no chief, because the chief don't cry and the chief don't cower and the chief ain't scared of no heat. A chief ain't never been scared of that. You ain't seen Chief Alazar be scared of it. You ain't seen Chief Ephraim be scared of no heat. But look at you. I am sick of a Johnny come lately brother who thinks he knows something, who don't know puffing himself up against the men that he says is his teachers.
Like, subscribe, freaking share, super chat, do all that, man. Support the troops, man. So today, y'all can see the title, y'all can see the thumbnail. We're going to go into 10 reasons why I believe that Cornelius is an Israelite, right? And history in the Bible corroborates that. Even just, honestly, you don't even need history and all that. You can just read the Bible and come to that conclusion. But before we even go into that, I want to highlight this comment real fast. Like, this is on one of the GOCC videos where we debated brother from GOCC, I guess GOCC Dallas, right? It says the Ak from GOCC, is from Hebrew Q. It says the Ak from GOCC might not have been a biblical scholar, but I'm here to tell you. Well, and you gotta think about that sentence. He might not be a biblical scholar, aka he got cut up, right? He got dismantled and destroyed and built, and honestly built back up at the end of it, right? But he got dismantled. Why? Because GOCC believes in basically plantation Christianity with a Hebrew Israelite spin on it, man. But I'm gonna keep going. It says GOCC might not have been a biblical scholar, but I'm here to tell you the way y'all broke down Revelations 2 and 26 was not it. And the way I broke it down is Christ says we're gonna rule, and I'm gonna get it in this lesson too. We're gonna, if you keep his sayings unto the end, and if you overcome this world, you're gonna have power over the nations. The word nations right there goes into ethnos, which is ethnicities, the races, right? That's what that's going into. And he's saying we're breaking that down. Honestly, we're just breaking it down like how it's said. And this is my problem with Christianity / GOCC, which is really the same thing. It's like they would like for you to believe 2 + 2 = 5. It can't just be what it can't. 2 + 2 can't equal 4. It has to be 5, and we have to negate everything just for it to be 5. It's just insulting to people's intelligence and into the integrity of the Bible just in general. Like that, and I don't want to get too deep into that because I'm gonna get into that later into this lesson. But the last part I want to highlight of this comment, it says y'all really be bucking on the fact that we're not supposed to have, it's not supposed to be having our head covered while bringing out the scriptures. Now I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna bust a lot of people's bubbles and a lot of Israelites' bubbles who just spew rhetoric, don't deal with any type of history or historicity of anything or context, right? I'm gonna bust their bulls when I say this. In 2022, there's not one Hebrew Israelite commanded to not teach with their head covered. That's not in the book, and that does not agree with history. This is something specifically said, like a camp leader is giving a bylaw to his camp. The camp leader being Paul, the camp being freaking the Corinthians, specifically in the 11th chapter. That's what that's talking about. That's just like if Alazar gave us a bylaw, that's not going to be applicable to all the camps. Just like if Bishop Nathaniel gave a bylaw to his camp, that's not going to be applicable to us. That's not how things work. Paul cannot add unto the law, nor can he take away from it. And I want to go into all 3 of those topics in this series of precepts I'm going to bring up before we even go into the lesson. Let's do this. Right. I'm going to start here. 1 John. Just keep it real. And I don't understand how Israelites will say that that's a commandment. But we'll read 1 John 3 and 4. And then say this is what sin is. But I'm gonna go ahead and read it. 1 John 3, verse 4. As whosoever committeth sin transgresseth also the law, for sin is the transgression of the law. For sin, literally, the verbatim definition of sin is transgressing the law. Having your head covered while reading the Bible or teaching the Bible is not in the law. And honestly, if you want to go into what's actually in the law, the Lord commanded Israelites to wear mitris. Do you know what a mitri is? A mitri is a turban. Literally a turban, a head covering in the midst of Yahweh. That's what the Levitical priest had on. And y'all are going to tell me, Paul's saying right here that it's unlawful for you to do so? What are you talking like? That, it's one of those things where you don't even understand your own history or culture. Like a lot of brethren are not scholastic at all, and it's a problem. And you wonder why y'all keep getting beat up by these Christian apologists. You wonder why that happens, right? But I'm gonna do this. Romans chapter 4, verse 15. Romans 4, verse 15. This is because the law worketh wrath, for where no law is, there is no transgression. So this is the same person who says if you're teaching with your head covered, you dishonor your head. So Paul says in Romans chapter 4, verse 15, where there is no law, there is no transgression. So you're telling us it's a sin for us to teach with our head covered. Paul's saying opposite of that. Paul, and that's verbatim. Paul is saying opposite of that. The same person you try to flock to make your God. And I'm gonna say what is a lot of Hebrew Israelites' God is Paul. At the end of the day, it is Paul. Y'all are still in the Christian church. Y'all are still old bottles. I'm gonna do this, and then we're gonna go back to what was it? Corinthians. This is Deuteronomy 4, verse 2. This is the law. It says, Deuteronomy 4, verse 2, ye means you, ye shall not add unto the word which I command you. If you're going to say that Paul gave a commandment, you're saying he added to you're saying he's a sinner now. You're saying he broke this commandment. That's what you're saying. And if you go in Philippians chapter 3, Paul says he kept the commandments blameless, being a Pharisee of the strictest sect. If you're saying 1 Corinthians 11 is saying that saying he's giving us a commandment, us in 2022, even though that was written to the church of Corinth. If you're saying we're transgressing that, you're saying he's adding to the commandments. And honestly, you're adding to the commandments now when you do that. Imagine that. Now you're a sinner. And here's the thing, I wanted to bring that up because that's been like the last few videos, the ones that's been picking up some steam. We got Israelites saying, "Oh, y'all are sinners, y'all are false prophets because y'all preaching with y'all's head covered," and that's madness. We're false. Everything we said, we brought a whole bunch of Israelites into this truth and told them that they're Israelites. And since we had our head covered, now we're false prophets. Congratulations, you not only broke Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 2, you also falsely accused us of being false prophets. Being called a false prophet and being accused of that's a sin worthy of death. And in the law, if you accuse somebody of a sin and it's not true, you are to bear that judgment. So congratulations, you played yourself. That's why you're not supposed to be rash with your mouth. And I don't understand how people come into this truth and not understand that. Understand that let me just slow down and not try to be the one trying to point fingers at people all the time when I don't know anything at all. To people who actually do this, and unlike you who sit at home and do nothing, right? And I'm not trying to say, oh, everybody just does nothing. That's not what I'm saying. But people who sit at the house and literally do nothing for their nation, who take their fringes off, who are only an Israelite during the weekend, y'all's opinion matters nothing to me, bro. Nothing at all, bro. Because it means nothing whatsoever. And not only does it mean nothing, it's also blasphemous. So let's go into 1 Corinthians. What is it? What did Alan Cooper say? Ecclesiastes 4. I can't hardly read that with my laptop. Let me see. Ecclesiastes 3:14. Know that whatsoever God doeth, it shall be forever. Nothing can be put to it. Oh, wow. Nor anything taken from it. And God doeth it, that men should fear before him. All right. And men, and that's really going back to Deuteronomy 4 again. But men should also fear adding unto this word. You see that being discouraged throughout the entirety of the Bible. Even in Revelations, I think the very last chapter it talks about that. I think chapter 22 talks about that. When you where it says you add unto the word, he'll add unto you the plagues, you take away from you, take away your part. You should be weary of doing things like that and accusing people of doing that. So let's go into this. This is 1 Corinthians, and honestly, and I gotta say this point too before we go any farther. Christians are right about y'all, bro. Like how did I say Hebrew Israelites? A lot of y'all Hebrews, y'all cherry pick scriptures. You were cherry picking scripture because what your breakdown of 1 Corinthians 11 doesn't go with the chapter. It doesn't. Like it doesn't go with the history of what it's talking about, and it also just literally just doesn't go with the context. It doesn't match the pericope. So let's look at this. This is 1 Corinthians 11, verse 2. It says, "Now I praise you, brethren, that you remember me in all things and keep the ordinances." The what? What is this? An ordinance. An ordinance is a bylaw over what? A camp, a church. This is what he gave as I delivered them to you. This you isn't your black ass in 2022. This you right here is not you at all. And y'all put y'all's chin out for these apologists really to rock y'all. And people like, and I'm not even trying to big up myself. People who actually study history, people who study history and study how things move and the biblical context matching up with the history. People who study things like that, we would be a problem for y'all, bro. We would be bringing a lot of y'all back to the Christian church. I'm just gonna say it how it is. We would be bringing a lot of y'all back to the Christian church. Verse 3. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God. Every man praying or prophesying with his head covered dishonoreth his head. Now, when you go into this word right here in the coverings, it's going into a veil. This specific veil that they had during the Hellenistic period and the Roman period. That's what this is talking about. Anybody can Google that. Anybody can pull that up. And even if he was saying that, that's not a law. So let's jump down and let's stay in context. Let's jump down all the way to verse 16 because brother 2D put that in the chat. Verse 16. Because it's about to bust a lot of people's bubbles. Verse 16. But if any man seem to be contentious, or if somebody wants to argue about this, anybody wants to go back and forth about this specific topic about the head coverings, we have no such custom, neither the churches of God. So this is not our custom. This is an ordinance which I'm giving to you, the church of Corinth. That's why it says neither in the church of God, because you don't see this nowhere else in the Bible. If this was such a hefty commandment, if this was such an important topic, why does Paul only say this to the church of Corinth? What about the church of Philippi? So they're not supposed to know about this? What about the church of Ephesus? They're not supposed to know about this? Thessalonica. Timothy's not supposed to have this wisdom. Titus ain't supposed to have this wisdom. None of the other apostles have this wisdom except this one specific church that Paul told this ordinance to. Like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing, guys? What are we doing? It's just madness. That's a logic cut instead of just having to go to context. That's a logic cut. If that was so important, why wouldn't he tell all of these people that? Madness, right? But let's jump into the lesson, man. Support the troops, like, share, subscribe, super chat, $, SICARRI Dallas, Cash App. Moving on, rather, because that was. And I want to say this one thing before we move on, actually, right? So I told the brother, I said, like, would you like to come on the live show and talk about it? If he wants to come on after the lesson, right, brother can hit me up. That's perfectly fine. We can have a respectable dialogue, but it's not going to go in your favor. I'm just saying that to you right now.